Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Court Vision. I am AJ, and I am here with another tier list maker. And this one you can see by the title, First Overall Picks. This one should be really interesting because there have been some really good ones, and there have been some pretty bad ones. But I think we'll see as we go through this that you'll see mostly good picks. Some have been bad because of injuries, some have been bad because they just ended up being bad. But before we get into it too far, make sure to leave a like if you enjoy this type of stuff, and subscribe if you enjoy the content, because there's going to be more and more. We're going to be doing more breakdowns, more tier lists. We're going to take some quizzes on Sporcle. If you guys don't know what that is, it's literally a website that has quizzes of different categories. So make sure you guys stick around, hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss anything. And leave a comment down below who you guys think. If I missed on something, let me know. I'll probably say that again later in the video. But here we go. So number one is, and here's how the tiers are: S, A, B, C, and D. So S is kind of like A++. We're starting off with the number one pick of the 2003 NBA draft, LeBron James. Obviously belongs in that A++, being one of the greatest players of all time. So really no question there. As far as number one picks go, Dwight actually was an A. The impact he had in Orlando, and people kind of forget, around like 08, 09, and 10, he was an unbelievably good player. And this might change. You know, I could see him at B, but to me, he's actually a Hall of Famer. And I know that might sound crazy right now because it's 2020, but if you guys go back and look at his stats, his defense and rebounding is just unbelievable. So he's A tier for me. Derrick Rose, this one's an interesting one. We just talked about how injuries could affect your status as a number one pick, and some of these guys are going to suffer from, you know, like, I don't know how far this list goes. So we got Markelle Fultz. I wonder if Zion's here. Let's see. No Zion. So, however far, you know, the recency of guys' careers not being over. With Derrick Rose, though, with the injuries, and it's not a slight to him, he's probably an A player. But as far as being a number one overall pick and delivering what you want out of a number one pick, he's B for me. Magic Johnson, top 5 greatest player of all time. Easy to put up in that tier. Blake Griffin, that's an interesting one because I don't think he's worse than Derrick Rose. So I'm going to put him on this. But again, I might think about sliding Derrick Rose down here to C. Blake, pretty awesome. You know, he's a tremendous scorer, tremendous athlete, good rebounder, okay defender. He gets the job done. So Ralph Sampson, I think he belongs here. He was a good player, but as a number one pick, I'm not sure he should be any higher. Just looking up his stats and the success, I think he did win he was a part of that Rockets team that won in the finals, but he was alongside Hakeem, so I'm not sure. That's a tough one. I don't know as much as I should about his game, but impact-wise, I think he's at C tier. Larry Johnson, for a number one overall pick, honestly, probably belongs in C tier. He is borderline B, C tier. I enjoyed him a lot. But honestly, numbers are okay. As far as an impact, I think he belongs here. Moses Malone, straight out of high school. I think he was one of the first players ever, if not the first player ever drafted out of high school. I'm going to put him at B. I know in the last tier video we had him pretty low on the tier of GOATs, but that's GOATs, not number one overall picks. So we'll just leave him here. He had a major impact on his team. Big-time scorer and rebounder. and here is one of the worst, Kwame Brown. I just think with Kwame, he had the talent. He had the athletic ability. I think his problem was he was so young, he just could not mentally get it. At the beginning of his career, he was kind of the pressure was just placed on him. He was Michael Jordan's first overall pick, and then he played with him for a season, was just constantly getting yelled at. I think mentally Kwame just was not prepared for the NBA, and he never got to that point. AI, that's an easy one. The impact he had. Well, honestly, I almost want to put him here at S tier, but we'll see. He is like number one here on A tier, though. I mean, he is like right there as far as S tier. You know what? Screw it, man. I'm putting him in S tier. Carried one of the worst teams in NBA Finals. He's got the argument against LeBron. 07 Cavs and 01 Sixers. Whoever carried the worst team to the NBA Finals. It's between these two. So if you're gonna tell me this guy basically single-handedly carried a team to the finals, he belongs up here, I guess. Hakeem, easy, one of the best centers of all time, definitely ahead of Dwight Howard. So we're gonna put him here in the S tier. Patrick Ewing, this one's interesting because production-wise, as a number one pick, he's pretty close to S tier. But results-wise, I will give it to him. He played almost his entire career with the New York Knicks, too, where Dwight moved around a little bit. But Ewing, I'm going to put him at A tier. Perfect number one pick. I mean, no problem with taking him one. And that's something you got to weigh into when you look at these guys. Like, should they have picked somebody else? And we would have to go back to each draft and really determine that. But Patrick belongs here in A. David Robinson, S tier, absolutely. Massive impact on his team right away. The only problem with him was that he actually didn't even go to the NBA for 2 years after he was drafted because he was serving in the Navy, aka the Admiral. Was the real thing, real deal, but amazing. David Robinson kind of slept on in the center conversation, but yes. Now we are to the other worst NBA number one draft pick of all time. I think similar things happened with Anthony Bennett that happened with Kwame Brown. Mentally was not prepared, and honestly, there was a lot of comparison with Anthony Bennett to Larry Johnson, and the reason that was because he had that type of game, that athleticism, but what happened with Anthony Bennett was he hurt his shoulder in the offseason of the year he was drafted. He gained a lot of weight, couldn't work out, lost some of his athleticism, lost his confidence, absolutely. I saw that firsthand as a Cavs fan. But he just literally could never regain anything mentally, let alone athletically, because he kept the weight on. I kind of feel bad for Anthony Bennett because an injury was kind of the reason that he was so bad, but it's never looked at that way. They just make fun of the Cavs for picking Anthony Bennett. But Chris Webber, honestly, I'll put him at B tier because the success that he had was not even with the team that drafted him. The Kings didn't draft him. So I'm going to put him, he was a great player. All four of these guys were great players. I mean, really all of these guys were great players, but Chris Webber was really, for the Kings, he was phenomenal, but that's not who drafted him. So that's going to be the reason I put him at B tier. This picture's horrible. I think this is Derek Coleman. I think. Looks like 44. So if this is Derek Coleman, I'll put him at C tier. He was a productive pro his whole career. Definitely above these two. Probably on similar platform as these Samson and Larry Johnson. Elton Brand. I almost want to put him at A tier, but I think he's slightly below. Elton Brand was a great number one pick. He was a double-double machine, 18 and 10 throughout the prime of his career. He actually averaged more points than that at certain seasons, but another one of these underrated guys, Elton Brand, and people make fun of him. I think he's doing a good job in the front office of Philly, but people make fun of him for some of the moves he makes, but I think he's doing fine. Here's a picture of John Lucas III. I think they're talking about John Lucas, his dad. He was the number one pick in a draft. I'm going to put him in C tier of what I know of him. he was a productive player, but nothing crazy. Tim Duncan, easy peasy up here, best power forward of all time, arguably. No question, one of the best number one picks of all time. Andrew Wiggins. So the jury's still out. Again, this was what I was talking about with the more recently drafted players. Jury's still out because early on he looked okay, and then he had a stretch where all he would do is score inefficiently. He's 6'8" and doesn't rebound, doesn't pass. So it's a little tough here. I'm going to put Wiggins at C because so far he's been good and productive. And, man, I think Golden State got a coup getting him in that trade for D'Angelo Russell. But a lot of people thought the T-Wolves robbed them, but he is perfect to fit in for what the Warriors do. So we'll see. His career might flourish at this point. He is still super young. I think he's like 23 or 24, so we'll see on that. Actually, he might be 25, but whatever. Anthony Davis, easily going to be a Hall of Famer, S tier, phenomenal. Kyrie Irving. This one's very interesting because he was probably the year that they won the title up there as best point guard in the league, arguably. But the way his career has gone, I'm not sure. You know, with the Cavs, that's who drafted him. Before LeBron returned, they had a horrible record. I mean, in the 20s percent-wise of winning their games. So I'm going to place Kyrie right here in the A tier, which is no bad thing. You're with Patrick Ewing, okay? But to me, Kyrie is a number 2 on a team. A very, very, very good number 2. But he is option B. He cannot be a leader on his team. And as far as by himself with what he did with the Cavs, not much. But then when LeBron and Kevin Love got there, he played his huge part in winning that title. So I'll put him in tier A right here. John Wall, another interesting case. I think he's better than these guys I've put in C tier. So I'm going to put him in B tier. When healthy, Wall is phenomenal. Right now, Washington's not loving his contract at all. But really good athletic player. And he's been with the team that drafted him his whole career so far. So he's been good for them. Sadly, I have to put Greg Oden down here in D tier, and it's not his fault at all. I feel like he would have been a productive, good player. He would have at least been between C and B. Maybe even higher, but probably. With the way the game was changing when he got drafted, I think he would have been around B tier, right on that line. But injuries just ruined him, and it's as simple as that. Andrea Bargnani. Honestly, I'm going to go C tier there because he was a productive player pretty much his entire career. You know, as the game evolved and made him kind of a center that fit the game because he could shoot from the outside. He was really a power forward, but, you know, with positionless basketball, he was a big man basically. But he was stretch 4, stretch 5, and it really catered to his game because that's what he was good at. He definitely did not come close to living up to what his expectations were, but he wasn't an utter disappointment like these three. Andrew Bogut goes up in B tier. He had a really good career, was a very good player his whole career, did really well with the Bucks, and then later on, you know, with the Warriors. Bogut was good. I mean, he was good on defense. He put up buckets up when he needed to. But he was a big rebound and defensive guy. So Bogut, I think, earned B. Yao Ming, S tier. Actually, yeah, I'm going to give him S tier because he was just amazing. Honestly, his results as far as accomplishments in the NBA as a team really never clicked. But his production was phenomenal. He was one of the best centers in the game when he was playing, and played with his original drafted team with the Rockets his whole career. So I'll give Yao S tier. I might have too many S tier guys in here, but you know, you guys can let me know in the comments if you think somebody's up here that doesn't belong. Kenyon Martin. This one's kind of tough. I guess I'll put him in B tier. I think he's better than Andrew Bogut. Like, he had a better career, but he was just hit with injuries, man. I mean, he honestly, Kenyon Martin actually could be between C and B, and I think Bogut could too. You know, we're leaning very thin line here, literally and figuratively. But Martin had a pretty good career. He was good with those Nets early. He was decent with the Nuggets, and then, you know, knee injuries just started building on him, and he just couldn't do it anymore. But he was a fun player to watch with the Nets, especially. Karl Anthony Towns, I'm gonna put up here. I'm going to put Karl Anthony Towns in B tier. I definitely think he has been a better individual player than these two, at least. His game is perfect for today's NBA. I mean, he is good inside. He's good outside. Great size. Good agility for his size. And can block shots. But his game has not translated to any success for the Timberwolves, who are the team that drafted him. Number 1 overall, and it just has not worked out so far. Maybe with D'Angelo Russell and the way things are now, he will. As an individual player, he's great. As a number 1 draft pick, he has not helped his team do much. Okay, so next we have DeAndre Ayton, who I believe he's going in C tier for now, and this is because how recently he's been drafted and his injuries and suspension and everything. We haven't really gotten enough of a look at him. We've gotten a look to see the potential. He definitely can be in this B tier as a productive, good NBA player. But right now it's been nothing but pretty much disappointment for the Suns who drafted him. Ben Simmons is a massively interesting one. Ben Simmons is tough because he's a great player. He's kind of changed the way things have gone with the Sixers. They've gotten really good ever since they had him, which to me makes me want to put him up here. On the other side of things, they haven't had the success that they really want, but I don't know if it's because of him. This one's a little controversial. I'm leaving him here at A. I think Ben Simmons is a great player. I think he's right there with Dwight Howard in terms of his impact that he's having on his team so far, like he had with Orlando. Now that LeBron's out of the East over the next few years, we'll see if it plays out. But that's where I'm putting Ben Simmons, and I don't care if you don't like it. Joe Smith's going to go in C tier. Productive player, played for a bunch of teams. Didn't really help the team that drafted him all that much. But he's there. Just a good player everywhere he's gone. Shaq, easy peasy, one of the best centers of all time, most dominant player of all time. There he goes. Markelle Fultz. To this point, Markelle is probably in D tier. He's climbing to C tier with what he's done in Orlando, but that's where he belongs for now, and that is going to do it for the first overall picks tier list. Let me know down in the comments if you guys agree or disagree with anything up here. Make sure you leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Again, please make sure to subscribe if you are new and you enjoy this type of content. NBA will be flowing through here, basketball, everything. And thank you guys so much for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one.